What is up, everybody? This is Ryan for the Scale Up Show. I have an awesome guest on today. I have the CEO and founder, Brendan Kane, who built his marketplace out from scratch and grew it from 5 million to 100 million in 7 years. He's literally one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet and breaks down the 3 revenue streams of a marketplace. Really, really insightful and some things that nobody's ever talked about on the show before. Welcome everybody to the Scale Up Show. This is your host, Ryan Staley, and I have a very special guest with me today. I have Brendan King. Brendan is the co-founder and CEO of Vendasta, which is the #1 platform for selling digital solutions to small businesses. Something really cool about them is they help small business monitor, manage, and build their online reputation. And they're actually working with some pretty big media properties as well, including Dow Jones, Hearst Corporation, approaching 9 figures this year, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Brendan, happy to have you on the show, man.
Well, thanks for having me, Ryan. Great to be here.
Yeah, that's good. I love it. You're so good-natured and relaxed. I aspire to be that way someday, but I don't know if I have too much caffeine or what my problem is, but I'll get there, man. I'll get there. So, so we have some context. Let's do a real quick revenue rundown so people understand where you're at in terms of your stage of the journey. So where are you guys at in terms of your ARR?
Yeah, so we're a Canadian company, and so we're reporting in Canadian dollars for a long time, and we've switched over to US dollars this year because of the, most of our business, 86% of our business is the US. So we should hit $100 million in ARR this year by the end of the year. It's looking like, yeah. Nice,
man. And I that's awesome. That's a huge milestone. You're gonna have a big party when you get there?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, a little more, right? So the cool thing about it too that he didn't disclose is, they started in 2015. We're at 5 million, and so in that 7-year period, going from 5 million to 100 million. So we're definitely going to deconstruct that. But before we get into that, what's your primary go-to-market strategy for revenue growth?
So, what we do is provide a platform to help anyone that sells technology, so products or services to small businesses. And that platform lets them market, sell, bill, and fulfill and deliver those products. And so our primary go-to-market is an inbound model. So we've got the segmented sales force that most people use, kind of like a HubSpot model. So we generate inbound demand. We also have some outbound SDRs. And those leads come in, we qualify the leads, they go to BDRs, business development reps, who close those leads, and then we have what we call account executives that would look after those customers. So we get the hunters and the farmers, and that's really our primary go-to-market. So we're a sales-led approach. We do have, it is product-led. I mean, you can sign up to Vendasta and use it from a product-led aspect, and we do have a lot of lower ACV customers that can self-sign up and use the product themselves, and some of those graduate into, at the right ACV into a sales-led motion, but that's our go-to-market.
Okay, excellent. And so because HubSpot kind of does this a little bit too, and literally yesterday just interviewed a former VP of sales there who reported to Mark Roberge in the early days, right? Yeah. When they had, I think the cool thing is he told me they only had 100 customers when he started HubSpot.
We just had Mark Roberge speak at our, we have an event called Conquer Local. Since COVID, it's been virtual, but we were fortunate enough to have him speak at our event, and I love Mark Roberge.
Oh, cool. Okay, small world. Well, so do you have on top of the PLG, and you said sales, do you hit it as well from an enterprise component, like a larger deal size where you target specific companies?
It's a really funny story. And maybe I could give you the evolution of our company that would lead, because we started enterprise, we came down to mid-market, even maybe a little too low, and we're coming back up to enterprise. So I like to call it the smile curve, but
okay. Well, let's do that once we get through the rundown. I want to do that. We'll hit that. So enterprise to mid-market to enterprise. Yeah. I love it. And PLG. So let's finish this up, and then let's go through that just so people can understand and have some context. So can you talk just about what your solution does specifically, so they have some context when we go into that in a little bit?
Yeah, like I was, so sometimes small businesses, they're time starved, right? They only spend about a third of their time practicing their craft, but they need technology to operate. And so, really, we want to democratize that technology that those big enterprises can afford for small businesses. That's the reason that people at Vendasta get up and come to work every day, is to help these small businesses. And the way to help them is to give them access to those products and services that all the vendors have and the folks that actually implement them. So about 75% of all dollars that get spent on products and services come through some expert. So whether you're a website company, a media company, if it's advertising, or a MSP, a value-added reseller, if it's a point-of-sale system, or G Suite or Microsoft Office, all of those services come through those folks. So we really build the distribution for that. So we connect that channel partner to help them market, sell, fulfill, and bill those services from all those vendors to the small business, and give the small business one login, one password, one username, one way to get at all those products. That's what we do.
And can you give me an example of some of the products that would be on your site?
Yeah, so we started and that's part of the evolution. We started with those, so what we call foundational products. So reputation management, local listing services, social media management, websites, advertising products, and now we've moved into adjacent areas. So we've got G Suite, Microsoft Office, point of sale systems. We just signed Big Commerce for e-commerce. So we got many more products come all the way down to fulfillment and logistics and all of the things that a small business might need. We're going to provide that whole stack to the SMB.
Oh wow. Okay, cool. So is it just limited to, well, you said logistics too, but is it primarily SaaS based, or is there a range of different offerings?
It is SaaS based products, but it's also services. Like for every dollar that a small business spends on a product, they spend at least $2.50 to actually implement and maintain that thing on an ongoing basis. And for things like Salesforce, it's even bigger than that. I think it's 5 to 1. But for most products, the small business needs someone to help them maintain those and implement and install.
Yeah, I can see that. That's really, so I want to dig into that as well, because it's a really unique business model that you have. Now, I know that you're funded, but can you just share with the audience what series you're in, and that
Well,
whole
we're in
situation?
Canada, so we've been pretty capital efficient, but we have raised a good chunk of change. And given the current environment, we're fortunate. The last round was 120 million Canadian. It's about 100 and change US, and we did that in the summer of 2021. So we're in pretty good shape from that point of view. Altogether, we raised about $160 million.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, man, I don't know if it's something in the air, but there's always patterns with people that I have on my show. Literally, the interview I had earlier today from a company called Sion, he just got a $93 million round, right before things. So this is the day of good timing with you guys in terms of getting all that capital before things kind of hit the fan a little bit. So congrats on that. What is up, everybody? Thanks for checking this out. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss it. Also hit the notification bell so you don't miss an episode at all. And if you want to find out more about how I could help you or your organization, check out my website, www.ryanstaley.io. Now we're back to the video. So let's talk about your journey, man. And why don't we do this? I think, one of the most important things about a journey is your journey, right? So can you give us a brief version of your journey in terms of how you got here, and then I'd love to go into your company journey where you started off enterprise, went to mid-market, and then now are enterprise plus PLG.
Okay, I'll talk about myself a little bit. It's probably not that interesting to folks, but so my degree's in physics. So when I graduated university, I was working for a uranium company, Eldorado Nuclear, and it was a 3 weeks in and 3 weeks out because it was up north. And on the 3 weeks out, I've always been kind of an entrepreneur. Like in university, I had a clothing store. And so on my 3 weeks out, I ended up starting a business recycling toner cartridges, and ultimately end up selling computers. And I quit my job, much to my parents' chagrin, and went full time into building this computer store. And by within 2 or 3 years, I think 3 years, we were selling $15 million worth of computers. Had a store in Saskatoon and one in Regina, and we ultimately became part of a computer chain. So that was all the way through from 89 to 99. And then in 99, I'm watching companies like, Bezos at Amazon, and I'm like, I got to get into this software thing. I didn't want to miss it. And so I went to work for a small company here in Saskatoon called Point 2, which was in the heavy equipment space. They're building things for Caterpillar and John Deere and Komatsu. And then we got bought by, I still got the hat, we got bought by this company called bid.com, which was Canada's eBay. And it had a $1 billion market cap, and they bought 60% of our company. And that was early 2020, or sorry, early 2000, not 2020, early 2000. And what happened is they had us auctioning off equipment. Everyone only cared about top line. So it's a really weird situation in 2000. And so it was like they didn't care how much money you lost. And then that summer the crash happened, and within 6 weeks they were out of money, and we ended up having to try buy our shares back and do consulting work for Caterpillar to make it work. And I didn't really want to do that, so I took the software and built a prototype with a buddy at the company and said, hey, instead of uploading a dozer or a grader, you can upload a house, and we can give realtors a website that they can control, so they don't have to go to a webmaster at the time to change it every time they sold a listing. And so the CEO said go for it, and by the time I left in 2007, we had 150,000 realtors in 50 countries using this product. No salespeople. Had about 6,000 paying. So it was truly a product-led thing before that was a thing. And that ended up selling to Yardi, which is an American company that many of you know. And that I still love that product, and it's still in use today. So I wish I could buy it back from them. and then I started Vendasta. So that's kind of my journey, but it's totally mixed in with the company's journey. Yeah.
All right. So let me ask you a couple quick questions on that. So how much did you sell the company to bid.com for?
So I just had started working there, so I don't really know the specifics of, they sold 60% of the company to bid.com. So I don't know what the specifics of that deal were, but and when they sold to Yardi, I just left to start Vendasta, and then they sold to Yardi, and I know I got some money. It wasn't enough to retire. I was a shareholder, but I don't know I don't know ultimately what the price they sold to Yardi was for, but it wasn't enough.
Okay. Yeah. Yardi is pretty big.
Yeah.
Like I ran into them earlier in my career, and it's funny. They're real big in the senior living space, actually, in
They are.
some spaces.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's cool. Love the fact that you were able to help people upload a house, so they didn't have to go through MLS. My dad was in real estate, so I remember him going through that and how painful it was.
Totally.
So, okay, so let's walk us to Vendasta. Like, when did you start the company, and what's that journey been like? And love to hear the story about how you took it from, an enterprise to a PLG to, or I should say mid-market, then to enterprise plus PLG type motion, especially because you have a market platform.
Well, I'll try to keep it interesting for you. So when we started Vendasta, it was January 2008, and I took a few folks with me from Point Two, and we had to survive, so we did some consulting work so we could eat. And in the meantime, so there was 8 of us. In the meantime, three of us built out a business plan, and we raised some money from a local Canadian government-backed VC in the summer of August of 2008, about $3 million, which we've since paid back. It's not on our cap table, but that's what got us started. And our idea wasn't what it is today. It was no clear path to A and B, let me tell you. We were building a platform for homeowners. So it was called My Front Steps, and you could share your home online with your friends and family to get ideas and inspiration about what your house should look like. But ultimately, the value was that you could find, a plumber, a landscaper, a carpenter, a realtor that your friends had used and trusted. And on the service provider side, for all those folks, we had a free tool where you could get your business listed online, you could monitor your reputation, and you could post on social. And what happened was, at that time, now there's Thumbtack and House and all these companies, but people didn't want to share their home online as much as we thought. But there was this massive demand for this free tool to get your business listed and monitor your reputation and publish. So it was making us broke. We had thousands of users all across the world, and they were signing up at a rapid rate. So we pivoted, and basically we said, we want to take this product to market to SMBs, but we had worked with realtors before, and we knew that the CAC was pretty high and the LTV is pretty low, and it's like herding cats. And so we said, we don't want to sell direct. And that's how we had our white label strategy. We said, who's already got a sunk cost in a sales force and relationships with thousands of SMBs that we could take this product to and get distribution? So that's when we went to newspaper and yellow page companies. Because if you remember, in 2008, newspaper revenue was $65 billion, and today I think it's about 15. that's a pretty steep cliff. The only people that fell off a cliff faster were the Yellow Page companies. And so we went to them and said, hey, you guys are selling advertising. Do these businesses know about you? We've got listings, because the best place to hide a dead body, second page of Google search results, so you got to be found. And then once you're found, they're one click away from a competitor. Nobody wants a one-star plumber. And then after you transact with them, you got to be able to publish. So we said, take these as white label, bundle them with your advertising. And so we did the triple, double, double thing, and that's how we grew. And as we grew those points,
Wait.
yeah,
Stop real quick. Could you went through that so fast? And the part that was really intriguing, I think that was super sharp, which is probably where you lived the massive growth. What was the thing that tipped you off again to go to directly to the Yellow Page advertisers? Why did you decide to do that?
yeah. So this is the concept really, and Google really pioneered it. It's called the zero moment of truth. So like before, so this is a very interesting concept. So before 2000, like the iPhone came out in 2008, right? And so
Right,
before
exactly.
that, when people wanted to find a service or they wanted to find a product, they would use the Yellow Pages, or they would, see something in the newspaper, or they would look up a company and they would make a call, or they would go to that company, and those people had a chance to sell them. And so that was called the moment of truth. I spend money on advertising. The moment of truth is when they transact with me or they show up at my door. But what began to happen and really took off in that 2008 timeframe was that they're moved to a zero moment of truth, which is like, I want to buy a car or I want to buy a computer. I go online, I do a search, and I make a decision about where I'm going to go or where I'm going to buy even before they've got a chance to sell me. And so that was the concept that we said, like, we've got to go to these folks that have advertising and provide them with what they need to make sure that the advertising works, which is listings to be found online and a good reputation and the ability to post on social. So that was the real thing that we discovered.
Okay, and that's sharp, man. I mean, 2008, it's pretty obvious what was going on with the whole Yellow Page advertising business, which, clear disclosure, that was my first real job, like non-character building job, like that
Well,
I had in
where are you
college.
working for?
I actually, so check this out. I worked for a company called University Directories that sold Yellow Page advertising to universities, like at each
Yeah.
university level. So Northwestern University was mine. So I would like door to door selling to like, check this. I Evanston, Illinois, there was a company that was like a surfboard company in Evanston, Illinois. I have no idea why they did that. Bought like $1,000 ad. It was like fantastic, right? There was like an importing, exporting company from Africa. So anyways, we don't need to go down the random thing, but I know more about Yellow Page advertising probably than I should, but it was a really good job as like door to door, get your teeth kicked
Well,
in, build the characters.
let me tell you, in 2008, like it sounds like that's an obvious thing today, but it was not obvious in 2000, not at all obvious. And so we spent a lot of our time,
Oh,
and
okay.
that's how I was fortunate enough to get in front of, Hearst Media Services and Zip Local were our first two customers. Zip Local was a Yellow Page company that had a lot of tertiary markets all over the U.S., towns you haven't heard of, Bozeman, Montana, things like that. And Hearst is a big media conglomerate that owned a bunch of directory companies too. And so we signed those two first, and Hearst got me in front of, and I still am thankful, and they're still a good customer to this day. And Jeff Falcomer, the guy at the local edge of Hearst, got me in front of all the newspapers. I remember going into New York, into the Hearst building, and it's intimidating. They got the waterfall and the foyer, and you go up and I got in front of all the top sort of 15 or 20 newspapers, so Gannett and McClatchy and all of them, and ended up pitching, and that's really what started us. I mean, there's a little bit of fortune in there. We got that. Those are the enterprise customers that kicked off our our our, our company really.
So, which I think is cool, man, because this is like I said, you were going so fast through it, but that was like your moment of truth, right? Where like shit really started rolling. It sounded like after that. So because of that event, because you worked, I imagine you busted your butt prior to that, and if you weren't ready for it, your company would have went in a completely different
Right.
direction, right? So, but like, what kind of uptick did that happen from there? Like, so when you went through that, what
Well, I
happened?
mean, we had a lot of work to do, right? Like sometimes you're telling the truth a little bit in advance when you're a young company and you're building the product you do. So, we did a lot of work to get our product to where it needed to be, and that was what we call those foundational products. But early on, I realized that the companies that were selling our reputation, our listings, and our social marketing, they needed more things. So, they needed websites, and now we've built some of those things, but we realized that we couldn't build them all. And we also realized, so we said we can build a marketplace where they can sell the products that we can't build. But even a bigger need was they didn't have a way to market, sell, fulfill, deliver those products. So these big companies were, one-off, going out and finding a product, teaching their sales force how to sell it, provide it to the small business, give them separate usernames and logins, and then to sell another one is really hard. So we said, hey, we need this platform that can let them do that in a really easy way, and it can let them do best of breed products. And so we built the platform in the marketplace, and that was really a shift from what I would call point solutions to a platform, to a marketplace, and now to a full platform. And so that's really sort of the evolution of the company. And as we did that, this is where we started on the enterprise, right? But as we did that, what happened is when you build out a platform to market, sell, fulfill, build, and deliver, some of these big enterprises like, holy cow, I'm using already Marketo or a Pardot, and I've got Salesforce under here, and I've got this, and I've got that. So they were taking parts of our platform and using them, but there were other people in the market, smaller agencies, market like smaller radio, TV, broadcast folks, website folks, SEO folks that didn't have that. So they would use our whole platform. So we started to go, down market. And once we got down below a certain ACV, we realized, this needs to be product led, and it can't be a sales. It's harder to be a sales led and supported initiative. And so we started to build that out. And as our platform started to reach more market fit, we've gone back up. And so now we've got agencies coming along to use our entire platform. So they don't need, they can use our marketing automation. They don't need one of those other products. They can use they don't need a different CRM like a HubSpot CRM. They don't need a Trello or a Monday.com for task management. They don't need some other kind of agency analytic dashboard or something to deliver the stuff to the small business. They can just use our platform. And so we're going back up market.
Ah, okay. And so, like, what would you consider an upmarket client for you then? Like in terms of employees,
Yeah,
revenue,
those
demographic?
would be anyone that has a sales force that's more than, say, 50 or 100 people selling to small businesses. So if they're selling
Okay.
technology, almost any kind, to small businesses, 50 to 100 salespeople or 100 more salespeople, they'd be a enterprise customer. And so you get the big broadcast media companies, you get big IT companies, big yellow page companies, or what used to be yellow page companies that are not longer. Lots of independent software vendors or ISVs. So those folks would fit into that bucket.
Okay. What about like payroll and like companies that sell like small medium business payroll services, HR services? Would they kind of fall in that bucket too?
Yeah, so like some of our vendors now, I think we got Jazz HR in our marketplace. So we started. So the way we think about it is because we started in the MarTech space, so marketing and advertising. Most of what we call the channel partners that sell that are media companies and website agencies. And we move across in trust. So you wouldn't probably buy banking services from a media company, but you
Right.
might buy your productivity stuff. So you might buy G Suite or Constant Contact or Microsoft Office. And so we started to move to those stacks, and then as we move, we match them. So if so now we're getting into things like insurance and banking products, and those will have then those sort of channel partners that sell those things as we go through the evolution.
Okay. Awesome, man. So, what would you say, like that? I mean, that's an awesome
Yeah.
story and really creative. How you kind of weave through things. So, what would you say is your number one single best strategy for growing revenue in the company today?
Well, it's like a flywheel for us. So the whole ecosystem's there. So, the strategy we have is if you get more channel partners, those channel partners already have small businesses. So it, it gives us more small business customers. And those small business customers, of course, attract more demand from the vendors. They want more products and services. So we add more products and service vendors. And as we add more products and service vendors, more channel partners say, oh man, there's more things I can sell there. So for us, it's a flywheel. More channel partners, more vendors, more SMBs, and that strategy to acquire those is what really drives it. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, it does. I mean, it's probably an advanced concept for a lot though. I mean, it's simple at the surface, but like, so if you were trying to build a marketplace from scratch, which I know you kind of talked through how you did that, but like, how would you approach it knowing everything that you know now,
Oh,
right? Like,
yeah.
how would you tactically approach it?
Super hard, right? Because it's a chicken and an egg problem. So when you got a marketplace, nothing
Yeah,
in
that's
it,
what I'm thinking.
people are like, well, what kind of marketplace is that? And the vendor's like, well, do I want to go into a marketplace with nothing in it? So we do overcome that with, we put products in there that were sort of, I would say, up and comers to start with, and now we're really, we're a lot more specific about what vendors we let in our marketplace because our reputation is on the line there. So we have a pretty high bar for the quality of those products because our channel partners and small business customers say, we depend on you to put the right products in there that are good. So that's the strategy we've taken as a curated, bespoke marketplace that we and to layer on that strategy, I think you want choice, but not too much choice. So you pick a certain category, maybe SEO. You're going to have at least three vendors in there. And probably not too much more than three, but three is the optimum number for the maximum sales because you want a top tier, a mid tier, and a low tier depending on what the small business needs. So we kind of try to match that. We look for an anchor tenant, like a global brand in some cases, and then we layer on those sort of three tiers, and then we build it out of what those products are to match what our channel partners are good at selling. And we slowly move across the stack. So that's really the strategy. What we're going now, that's the bespoke strategy. What we're doing right now is, I mean, we've already got it so that someone could sign up and get an API key and integrate against our marketplace. But in order for us to just open it up like that, we need to have some kind of mechanism to govern um, the reputation of those things that are in there. So we're going to have our own reviews where people, and how long does it take for these guys to deliver, and put those folks that are in a different marketplace in a different way where it's governed by the community versus the ones that we curate and put in the marketplace. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think it was good, man. So, long story short, just a quick rehash. TLDR, right? Products that are upcoming. The way you started is right. You have upcoming products, obviously, to get some momentum, and then eventually you shift and further curate it, categorize it into three from like high, medium, low. Prior to that, though, you want to get an anchor tenant so that you have kind of that name recognition that other people want to follow. And then you also identify the products that your partners are good at selling, and then incorporate that in
You
there.
nailed
Did I
it.
miss
You
anything?
nailed it. That's the strategy
All
for
right.
building the marketplace from our perspective.
Okay, cool. So that's awesome. I mean, it's obviously there's a lot to it and a lot to think through as you're going um, through that methodically. So, what would you say like with having a marketplace? Because I know you mentioned the chicken and the egg, but you're about to hit 100 million. What would you say is like your single biggest challenge right now that you're running into and growing the company?
Well, I mean, that has shifted, hasn't it? So, like, obviously, the world was grow, grow, grow from 2018 till just this spring, and you got to get the talent. We're 700 people. We've got 200 people that are on our sort of services side, so it's almost a separate company. And then we have 500 people that are part of what we call our software company, which 200 would be engineers, and the rest would be in the sales and marketing and admin and overhead. And so the biggest challenge was to get the talent that we needed to, like, I think you can only go as fast as the senior talent on your management team. So for us, you sometimes want someone who's been there, done that. So for them, it's everything that needs to be done is a past chapter. So they've read the book before. So so finding that talent to grow has not always been easy, but it's easing up. Given the current market conditions, you see all what's happening with some of these companies. I think we had 670 or so applications in May of 2021, and in May of 2022, I think that went to just under 1,600. So you're starting to see the easing up of that labor market, and that would have been one of the biggest challenges. But there's, frick, being challenged in life is unavoidable. Losing is a frickin' choice, though. So, it's just being stubborn and making sure that you learn rather than lose.
So, well, let's talk outside of the, yeah, I mean, because it is right, trying to get the right people involved, and there's a whittling
Yeah.
down of that. But like, I guess like, what do you see with, because let's say you're going to hit 100 million, what's your target for next year then? Like once you get to 100,
No, like
or what's your
I
vision
want
for the
to,
company?
40% growth is where, like, so when it was grow, you had to really be going. If at $100 million, to grow 40%, you're adding like a lot of dollars. And so you're adding as many dollars as you added in multiple years before. So 40% growth would be a nice organic growth, would be a nice target. So, we're also making some acquisitions, but we're targeting a 40% growth. But it's really not about that anymore. It's more the rule of 40, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And so we want to make sure that, because it's just as important. Like, we're gonna our we hope to be break even by mid 2023, and we've got a lot of money in the bank. We don't need to be there, but that we think is the way to maximize the value of our shares.
Yeah, that makes sense. So be capital responsible, if you will, right?
Yeah, we've always been that. Because it used to be that people would run head on into a brick wall, but we've never really been able to do that here in Canada. So back to challenges, raising money is gotten easier in Canada for some growth companies, but it's not like it is in the US.
Yeah. So that makes sense, especially at your level. What would you say on the revenue side? Because like that's what I'm trying to understand too. Is like what kind of revenue inflection points do you hit at that 100 million barrier? And I like, are you running into pipeline challenges where you don't have enough new opportunities consistently? Is it more on the sales process side? Is it like, because everybody
It's all
has
those
those
it's
kind of
all those
problems.
things. You show me somebody who says they don't have a pipeline problem, and I think I call bullshit. I mean, obviously you want as much pipeline as you can get, and you want to make sure that you're really intentional about it and that you're focused on your ICP. So it's too easy to to go fishing for whatever fish jumps in the boat. You got to understand who you're going after and go after those customers. And so who your ICP is really.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so one thing that I did that helped us, it, like doubled our deal size year over year, is basically continually applied Pareto's principle to ICP, right? So kept looking
Yeah.
at the top 20% and just kept refining that, and then it eventually got to the point where there was customers that were too big that we didn't want to take on,
Well,
right? Just because
it's a
the market.
distribution. That's 100%. Like, because the sales cycle's too long and you might not have the market fit to actually satisfy them the way you can with the other customers. And so you got to
Yeah.
balance that, right? 100%.
Well, exactly. You nailed it on that. They demanded more, and it was because we got like we were trying to take down Walgreens at one point, right? Which is interesting because like we got Amazon, but we got the Whole Foods division, which was different at the time. But and what we ran is exactly that. The sales cycle was too long. They expected the world, and the margins were way tighter, right? So it's like it's the not worth it factor, right? That you eventually run into. So. Okay, well, Brendan, this was awesome, man. It was great having you on the show. It was amazing hearing your journey and kind of how you made that happen. We're up on time, but I want everyone to know like where they could find you, where they could find more about Vendasta, if they want to tap into the platform, and then we'll wrap it up, man.
Sure. Well, you can find Vendasta at www.vendasta.com, just like it sounds. And you can find me on LinkedIn, just Brendan King is
And
I
it's
got the URL.
Brendan, right? Brendan,
Brendanking. Yep.
not Let's Go Brandon, right?
No, no.
All right.